Nice jumper.
Thank you. I'm committed to it. It's Christmas, isn't it? So
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, it's like Advent calendar, chocolate this morning, don't feel guilty about having chocolate in the morning time of year, isn't it?
yeah, I've not got one this year. To be fair, I've disappointed myself.
What?
I know.
Uh,
But,
well, I never normally get one, but my sister very kindly sent me one, and it was posh chocolate as well, so I feel
mhm.
very spoiled.
Good times. I'm glad to hear. But thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
You're very welcome. Hang on, let me just get my camera going. Sorry.
Oh, that's all right.
Oh, there we are.
Hello.
So I just finished a run, hence my slightly
That's
sweaty
that's all right.
look.
That's all good. It's all good. Got a whole host of questions for you. So
Okay.
hope you're prepared.
I am
So
well prepared. Yeah.
glorious. I will first start with what inspired you to do a Christmas album.
Well, I've done I think five solo albums, including a compilation album, and all of musical theatre and things that lent towards that genre. And I've been thinking about my next album for a while, and then I suddenly had, in the summer, I was thinking, I just want to make something that makes me happy and makes people happy. And well, the obvious thing to do was a Christmas album. After the last couple of years, the pandemic and everything, I just wanted to do something that maybe spread a little bit of joy, maybe put a smile on people's face, and what's better than that to do that than a Christmas album, really. So that's why I did it eventually, and also it was going to take no time at all. I thought. I thought foolishly, because I was just going to do originally. I was just going to do 10 straight covers, classic Christmas songs from the 50s and 60s, which is the era of Christmas music I love.
Yeah.
But then, as is the way with these things, it developed into much more than that, and it took about 3 months to put together from start to finish. In the end,
Yeah, and obviously, as you say, there's so many Christmas songs out there, iconic ones that everyone knows. How do you go about then selecting the track list, and how many times do you kind of change it?
But, well, I mean, yeah, I mean, well, endless is the
Yeah,
amount of times you look for stuff. But initially, as I said, I had about 10 tracks, and they were all going to be songs by people like Andy Williams and Bing Crosby and things like that. And then I looked at what I really liked and chose 10 tracks out of that, because ultimately I want to perform songs that I enjoy performing, and I knew that around this period of time of year I'd end up performing them live anyway. So that's why I put on songs like It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year, Holly Jolly Christmas, things like that, classics, but with my voice on them. But as the time went on and I started looking for stuff and I started telling people I was doing a Christmas album, then people were suggesting tracks and I started finding tracks, and which I thought, well, I've got to record this. There's a song in there by a guy called Chris Eaton, and it's called Now More Than Ever, and he wrote Saviour's Day for Cliff Richard, and it's just a gorgeous song, and I thought, well, I've got to put this on, but it doesn't fit in with the rest of the album, but never mind, I'll put it on anyway. And then I found other songs which also weren't quite of that era. So it's become an album of two halves, really. The first half is all classic stuff, and the second half is all unique, interesting, fun, modern, contemporary stuff, including a song by a guy called Al Lewis, who's a mate of mine from Wales, who's a singer-songwriter, who wrote this beautiful tune called A Child's Christmas in Wales, which is based on the piece of writing by Dylan Thomas. And, it takes it as an inspiration. So I thought I'll do that. But then I found a recording that in my archives of Dylan Thomas reading his own work. So I ended up splicing the words of Dylan Thomas into a song about the words of Dylan Thomas, and things like that. They just kind of like, it was almost like, what's the word, serendipity. It kind of all kind of just fell into place. So I've ended up with an album that I'm really, really happy with. And I know people say that kind of thing all the time, but I am really happy with what's come out.
glorious. And obviously, you have helped co-write a couple of songs on this album. Kind of where did that
Yeah.
come from as well?
Well, again, back to the same point I just made about, the fact that people were sending me stuff and talking to me about stuff. And Steve Balsamo, who's a friend of mine who was in Jesus Christ Superstar, Swansea boy, he, he's a singer-songwriter and a very good one too, of his own right. And he suggested he had this song that had never been heard in public. And so I took that with him, and, we went on a journey and kind of restructured it. I rewrote the lyrics, and we ended up with a song called Please Come Home for Christmas Day, which kind of leans towards more modern sounding pop, almost like there's like a piano intro, which is kind of very Coldplay, and it gets a bit Bon Jovi, and that kind of thing. And there's also another track which weirdly, I've ended up co-writing with the late great songwriter Les Reed, who wrote Delilah and It's Not Unusual, amongst others. And I sang at his memorial a couple of years ago, before the pandemic, when he passed away. And his daughter reached out when she heard that I was recording a Christmas album and said, "Oh, Dad had this song lying in his bottom drawer. Would you like to use it?" So I looked at it, said, "Well, this needs a bit of updating lyrically and arrangement-wise." So I got permission to rewrite some of the lyrics, and I now have a co-writing credit. From going from not having any writing credits to writing with Les Reed. It's crazy, yeah. But again, another song. I'm really happy how it's turned out, and I'm very glad it's on the album.
And obviously, you duetted with Kerry Ellis on one of the tracks, "That Holiday Feeling," on this album.
Yeah.
How do you kind of like select who you're going to work with?
Well, I mean, it very much. I find songs that I want to do first, and then I find people I want to sing with. And on my other albums, Kerry's nearly appeared a couple of times, but the songs haven't quite suited her. The songs I've chosen, things like "All I Ask of You" and "The Prayer," which I've duetted with Natasha Marsh and Lucy Jones. But Kerry hadn't really suited the style of stuff. And then I found this song called "That Holiday Feeling," which was recorded originally by a husband and wife couple called Steve Lawrence and Edie Gourmet. And it's one of those kind of hidden gems that nobody knew about. And when I found it, I thought, I've got to record this. It's like another Baby It's Cold Outside, it has that kind of vibe. And as soon as I heard it, I knew that Kerry was the one to record with, and I called her up and she said immediately yes, which was delightful. And we had a lot of fun, and it could very well be my favourite song on the album.
Obviously, this is another one of your self-produced albums. Does that give you more kind of creative freedom?
Oh, it gives me complete freedom. Of course, the problem with producing your own album and creating it from scratch is that you have to pay for everything. Yeah. So thank God for the government grants that were being handed out willy-nilly over the pandemic. But I've the last couple of albums, the album before this was paid for by the fans. Something called a pledge campaign. But unfortunately for me, I stumped up the cash and then I would have got that money back through this pledge campaign, this crowdsourcing thing. But unfortunately, the company that was organising it all, who were quite well established, called Pledge, embezzled all the funds from all their artists and ran away with all the money. So I ended up spending everything I had on it, So as a result of that, part of the cost and the budget of making an album is the publicity, and it's no point making something if people don't know about it, Yeah. And so therefore, with that album, I was unable to spend any money on publicity because of the fact that I had to spend everything on the actual making of the album. So cost was very much an issue with this album, and the budget was very tight as a result. And I wanted very much to record something that had a very live feel. So I went to a studio in Wales I'd worked in before called Acapella, an old converted chapel, because it has a lovely vibe. Recorded the band live, did a few takes of each song, and then I put my vocals on later on, and I did a few takes. So I think about 75% of the album, the songs you hear, is a one-take vocal or a one-take recording of the band. I wanted very much a live feel, and that was partly to do with budget. I had a full symphony orchestra on my last one, and this one is very much about making it sound like someone was playing in your living room, bringing it right down and intimate and fun, But of course, as the album expanded and the newer songs went on, they ended up becoming more symphonic, and we got more instruments on, and it ended up costing me more money. But ultimately, it's a legacy thing, and one day, after I've left this earth, people will still be able to listen to it and hopefully still like it, So that's the point of it, really. You're never going to make money on albums anymore, but at least you've got something to be remembered by.
And you're working alongside people you've worked with a long time, like John Quirk, of course, who I've kind of spent time with. How kind of important are those relationships? Oh,
it's essential. I've told John Quirk this many times, and he's a very humble man, so he won't take it on board, but he is absolutely brilliant. He is, he's a goldmine for me. I'm so lucky to have him because he has great taste. He is great at arranging at speed. So he can arrange for a full band, an orchestra, or just a piano and a cello in a day. It might take other writers and composers weeks to do that. And he's a brilliant pianist. He's a brilliant conductor. He's a brilliant people person. And, I've known him, since, because I'm from Bury Port and he's from Swansea, and there's about 20 miles between the two towns, and we've known each other for a very, very long time. And when I first embarked on an album recording career, I immediately thought I wanted to work with him. We'd done a few live gigs together before that, but he's almost like he second guesses me, and that's so important, to have someone when you're performing live with them at the very first instance, to have someone who kind of knows what you're going through and how you're feeling the music, and he feels it with you. And he very much does that in the studio as well. And he's it's a delight having him with me. I'm very, very lucky.
Amazing. Moving a little bit off the album, it's more just general Christmas questions.
Yeah.
What would you say are your kind of favorite Christmas traditions?
Oh, well, quite a while back, because I've got two grown-up children now, they're 19 and 18, but when they were very small, and whenever we went anywhere on holiday together, we'd try and buy a Christmas bauble for the tree. And so now whenever I put my tree up at Christmas time, I've got so many memories on it. So I'll hang one up from, we were very lucky enough to go to the Bahamas on holiday once, and so we've got a Christmas bauble from the Bahamas, and we've got one from Disneyland, and one from Norfolk, and it reminds all these times that we spent together as a family. So when we put the tree up, we have memories on it. So that's probably my biggest Christmas tradition, followed very swiftly by always having a bacon sandwich with brown sauce on Christmas morning.
Strong.
Yeah.
What would you say is kind of the favourite bit of Christmas dinner? Always important question.
Oh, see, that's tricky because, everybody's going to say pigs in blankets, aren't they, I should think. But my mother, may she rest in peace, she made amazing stuffing. And, she was a butcher's wife, and she used to keep the turkey because it was too big to put in the fridge, so it'd be out in the garage in the cold, and the stuffing would be in there in the turkey, cold. And so over the Christmas period, my brother and I would often sneak into the garage and just take a handful of stuffing and eat it because it was so delicious on its own. So stuffing is very important, but obviously pigs in blankets are amazing. But for me, and this probably surprised a lot of people, my favourite roast veg is the Swede, or I think it's known in America as the rutabaga. So that is, I can eat a whole bowl of that and not have to worry about anything else on the plate because I love it so much. So ultimately, my favourite part of the Christmas dinner is boiled mashed Swede.
Lovely. What would be your go-to Christmas film?
Oh gosh. It's a Wonderful Life is the one that my wife and I, she first pointed me in the direction of that, and it's a magnificent film, even though it's not ostensibly a Christmas film. The ending, it couldn't be more Christmassy, and I also was very lucky to do a workshop of a musical of that once, which was written by Harry Hill's musical director, Steve Brown, and that was great, so I think It's a Wonderful Life is probably the one, though it's very long, so we don't always watch it, and we have to be in the right mood, but otherwise, if not that one, if I want a quick Christmas camp hit, I'd watch Arnold Schwarzenegger in Jingle All the Way. Guaranteed to cry every time.
Classic. I've never seen a Wonderful Life. I need to go.
You've never seen It's a Wonderful Life?
No, I've never seen it.
Right, okay. Well, it's it's black and white. It's well over 2.5 hours long, but it's the payoff at the end is extraordinary. It's definitely worth watching. It is one of the greatest films ever made.
I'll get on it this year. Go back to kind of earlier this year. Obviously, you celebrated your 50th birthday with concerts at Cadogan Hall.
Yeah.
Kind of how did you reflect on kind of how it's gone?
Well, COVID has been very difficult for people in my industry. In many ways. I was lucky in the sense that I had savings, and I had some live stream work and things like that. But a lot of people I know, have run out of money, and they're having to change jobs. I got perilously close to that, but thankfully, because I had a big anniversary, a big birthday this year, I was 50 years old, even though I wasn't able to have a party with my family and friends to celebrate it. And, sadly, I'd also lost both my parents, so it kind of put a tarnish on everything. I was able to celebrate with a live concert at Cadogan Hall, 2 in fact, which sold out. And even though it was socially distanced, it was still a great party atmosphere. And, it was very, very special after what had happened in the last year or so, with my industry and my family life, to be able to stand on stage and sing in a room of people that love what I do. So it was very special, and it's a cherished memory.
I will say I watched it on the stream and it was brilliant. So
thank you.
Is there any people who you've not worked with yet who you'd like to work with? Or kind of same question, but roles you've yet to play?
Oh, well, yeah. Obviously, sometimes just passed away, and I was very lucky to work with him. So I count that as a blessing. But somebody I would love to work with, who has worked with Sondheim a lot, is the legendary musical theatre performer Mandy Patinkin, who very much has inspired my career direction. He's worked in TV, film, theatre. He's recorded. He does concerts, and I'm kind of trying to follow that pattern. So I'd love to work with him because I hear he's an interesting person to work with. So I'd be interested to see that firsthand. Though I did briefly meet him once, and he was absolutely charming. But working with him is a different thing. So Mandy would be a really great person to work with because I've learnt a lot from him, as I said, and I've emulated his kind of career trajectory as much as I could. So he'd be the one.
Do that. Have to get them things where everyone tags him in the video now.
Yeah.
So he sees it. Obviously, you're well known for playing roles like the Phantom, Jean Valjean.
Yeah.
But if you could have Christmas with any character you've played, who are you inviting around?
Well, I definitely wouldn't invite the Phantom because he'd probably try to hang me if I cooked the turkey wrong. But so it'd have to be Valjean, wouldn't it? I mean, basically because he's really rich.
Yeah,
he becomes really rich in the show, and I'm like, he'd put on a good Christmas party, Though, I mean, I could probably do without the amount of praying he'd probably do before Christmas dinner, because I just want to get stuck into the food. But I mean, I should imagine, French cooking in a big French mansion in Paris with Jean Valjean. That would be an awesome Christmas.
There you go. See,
no bread allowed, though. No bread allowed.
No bread. No, it brings some anyway.
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Obviously, before the end of the year and kind of early into next year, you've got some concerts coming up. Can you tell the people where they can see you?
Yeah. Yeah, sure. So, I mean, obviously with the Christmas album, I want to get out on the road and sing songs from it. And it's kind of tricky at the moment with live performance because you never really know what's going to happen one day to the next. So I've only got one Christmas show planned per se with me, just a solo show with songs from, my albums, but also songs from the Christmas album. And that's on 12th of December in Llanelli in a Furnace Theatre. There are tickets available. So that should be a really fun night. But I'm also performing as a special guest of Lucy Jones in Cardiff and in London. I'm performing at Cadogan Hall, at the Lyric Theatre, in kind of West End Christmas concerts. And then in between Christmas and New Year, I'm performing in a show called the Greatest Show Tunes, which is like a musicals compilation thing with a full orchestra, which is playing in Glasgow, Birmingham, Manchester, London, and then I'll have New Year's Eve off. So I'm looking forward to having a drink then, let me tell you.
I bet you'll need it by then.
Yeah.
And to wrap up, my kind of final question is, where can people purchase the album?
Well, I mean, the obvious place to go is johnowenjones.com. I mean, it's available in all the usual places, Spotify, Apple Music, Tidal, Amazon, places like that. But if you go to johnowenjones.com, all the info's there. And if you're lucky, you might even be able to get a signed album. Though, I should say, if you come to most of the live gigs I'm doing, signed albums will be available. So it's the ultimate Christmas present.
It is. Brilliant. Thank you very much for your time today. It's been an absolute pleasure because you're obviously one of the most iconic performers.
Stop it. No, that's very nice of you to say, but thank you.
No, it's been a pleasure. Like I say, I watched the stream whenever it was earlier in the year. It was brilliant. Obviously, I've seen you, on stage in the past, and brilliant.
Oh, well, thanks very much, Mark. That's very nice to hear. Thank you.
No, thank you for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day, whatever you get up to.
Yeah, you too, and have a very, very Merry Christmas.
And to you. Thank you very much.
All right.